So the next thought that we could have is, do we have some witness points also in the judgment time? And this is what I want to research with you next. First, again, a table. Now you see here this table, and I used a color scheme, green and blue, to show different time frames. One time, 2 witnesses in the pioneers' time, and then the 2 modern witnesses, which is the story of Revelation 11, or let me say the heart of the story of Revelation 11. While the 2 witnesses story indeed does not begin in Revelation 11. It begins already in Revelation 10 with the little book, because the last verse of Revelation 10 tells these witnesses, or John the witness, that he has to prophesy again. And this again makes the trick. So we know there has been already to the 2 witnesses story in Revelation 11, there has a predecessor, there has something happened before that would foreshadow their prophesying. And this is exactly in chapter 10, the story of the little book that was then sweet in the mouth and bitter in the belly of John the prophet, and then later was fulfilled by William Miller, Samuel Snow, when the 1844 date, supposedly the coming of Jesus, ended with a great disappointment. So I hope you see exactly why I start there, and why before 1844 this time was left out. Chapter 11, the beginning, there's a time that had to be left out, the time of the heathen. This is not part of the story of the 2 witnesses in the pioneers' time and the 2 witnesses in the modern time frame. And the gray part that I have here in my color scheme, this is the unknown part that I want to discover with you in this video. When we talk about the judgment time, of course, we are in 1844, in the beginning of the judgment of the dead. As Paul said, there will be the judgment of the dead and the judgment of the living. In 1844, on the 22nd of October, Christianity, many Protestant churches, because of the Miller movement, and later even of Samuel Snow, who deciphered the exact day of the atonement being the 22nd of October, these groups of people expected the second coming. When we are talking about the 2 witnesses in the judgment time, then we have to start with the judgment. And it began in 1844 on the 22nd to the 23rd of October. But what was the important point there? The important point was not the disappointment. The groups of persons, the Christians, had waited for Jesus until midnight of the 22nd to the 23rd of October, and then they were utterly disappointed that the cloud had not appeared with Jesus on it. And so Hiram Edson, a certain group in the US, with his followers and with his home church, they went into the stable and prayed through the whole rest of the night until the morning hours, and the sun came up, and then they went out still sobbing. And then all of a sudden Hiram Edson looked up into the heavens, and he had a vision, and he saw the heavens open. And he saw Jesus entering into the most holy place for the great day of atonement in the heavens, which still has not ended. And this is the point that is the important point. The morning hours of the 23rd of October 1844. This is when Jesus is seen in vision entering the most holy place to start the Day of Atonement. So we have to look up what was the heavenly situation there, were there 2 witnesses. The next date that we perfectly know from Adventist history, which is a huge date, and almost every Adventist, if he is an Adventist, knows this date. It was a terrible date. It was it was a good date and it was a terrible date at the same moment. Two witnesses, Waggoner and Jones, had been sent through God to the General Conference of 1888. And they had a message that Ellen G. White later called the fourth angel's message. It was the message of the other angel, righteousness by faith, justification by faith message. But the delegates and the elders and the leaders of the church refused this message utterly, which brought Ellen White to terrible sadness, because then she got to know from God that now, because of this refusal of the Holy Spirit in this message, the Adventists would have to walk again in the wilderness many, many, many years. That then added up from the year 1888 until 2008, when I started to understand certain things in the heavens, respectively the deciphering of the man over the river with the duration of the judgment of the dead. I was then, from then on, 2008, together with the other witness, prepared to give this message again in its perfect form, what we do since 15, 16 years. So Waggoner and Jones were sent to the General Conference session in 1888, and that was, you can look that up, I put a photo here. It started on the 17th of October. And we have to look up what happened there in the heavens. It's a very, very, very important date in Adventist history. So this concludes then the green marked part, because this is the part that happened in the time, let me say, of the judgment of the dead, for the preparation for this fourth angel's message. There is the third angel's message of Revelation 14 that warns about the plagues. And there is the fourth angel's message that gives a certain loud cry so that many can get out of the Babylonian churches. So what is my most important date, John Scottram? It is, of course, when I started to write the Orion study. And let me shortly say what I found out today, because I have not a very good memory neither. Sometimes. And what I found out researching for the exact date when I started to write the Orion study, it is really incredible what I found in my old files. So indeed, and we wrote about that in the 7 Lean Years article. There I wrote down the story as I remembered it. And it was so that indeed in 2004 I went to Paraguay. In 2008 I had deciphered the man over the river in Daniel 12, that the duration of the judgment and so on. But it was not until September 2009 that I started to really write about these things. I looked it up. I had reserved the domains for opening a website in August 2009. But I would not start publishing before January 2010. So, and I started to write an article, several little articles, but I did not publish them. And then I started indeed the PowerPoint presentation for the Orion study in September 2009. But I was stuck. I was totally stuck. I had understood the man over the river, the duration of the judgment of 168 years. I had understood Orion as a clock and the 24 elders as the hours around the clock. I had understood all these things, but I was not able to understand where are the clock hands. or the clock hand. Yeah? I did not know how to read that clock. I knew Orion was a clock of God, but I could not understand how to read it. Yeah?